Well, hello to L. Today we're going to talk about the perimeter and area of composite shapes, but composite shapes that have circles. So back when you did 1L, you probably did them with squares and rectangles and triangles, and now we're just throwing in the circle that you learned how to find the area and perimeter of in the last lesson. So a composite shape is a shape like this one that's made up of more than one shape. So this one, it actually looks like a heart, but it's made up of a circle and then a square. And so we need to split it apart and find the shape of the smaller pieces, or find the area of the smaller pieces, and then add them together. And that's the whole idea of finding the area and perimeter of a composite shape. So the first thing we're going to do here, and I'm going to do this in blue. Maybe I'll do it in blue. Why doesn't this one click? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to call this area, see that these two things together make a whole circle. So I'm just going to call that area 1 as a whole, so it's a circle. And this we'll call area 2, which is a square. So I'm going to find the area of 1. And the area of 1 is a circle, so we need the circle formula here, which is pi r squared, or pi times r, which is what this thing says. They've just put 3.14 in instead of pi. So this is pi times r. Now what is the radius of this circle? Well, since it sits on top of the square, and we know the square has a side that's 2 inches long, then the radius, which is from the middle out, must be 1 inch. So this is 3.14 times 1 times 1, which is just 3.14. Now when we find the area of 2 is a square. And if we look up here, the area of a square is just the side length squared, or side times side. In this case, our side times side is 2 times 2, which is 4. Now the total area, so we're going to say area T for total, is going to equal 3.14 plus 4, which is 7.14. Now remember, we're finding area, and it was given to us in inches, so in our last statement we should put square inches. And remember, anytime we find area, it's a squared unit. Now we're going to find the perimeter next, and I'm going to take my highlighter here just so that we can figure out what we want for the perimeter. The perimeter means the distance around, so it's this part here. It's the part that makes the heart. So that means that the center piece is not included in that. So we need to make sure that when we add them all up, we're just adding this piece, and then these two pieces of the square, not these other two pieces of the square. So we need to find the circumference of the circle, and it is going to be the whole circumference of the circle because we have half a circle here and half a circle here, so 2 halves make a whole. So the circumference equals pi d, which is 3.14 times the diameter, in this case is 2. And 3.14 times 2 is 6.28. So that's this distance around here. Now we have to add in this side and this side. Just those two sides. Remember, this dotted line is not on the edge. Perimeter means all around the edge. So we can say total circumference, or total perimeter, I'm just going to use a P, total perimeter equals, we need the 6.28 from the circle, and then we have to add the 2 and the 2. 2 plus 2, which gives us 10.28. Now this is perimeter, so it's not an area measurement, so we just go all the way around. So that is just plain old inches, not inches squared. So here we've got the total. This is the area, and this is the perimeter. So now, moving over to our next slide, we have a slightly more complicated shape. This says find the area and perimeter of the shaded region. Well, the shaded region is a whole bunch of weird shapes there, but if you take a look, we've got one big rectangle, and then this is the same circle. Look at that. It's got 5 across there and 5 across here. So that's one whole circle just cut into 2 halves. So we've got that whole circle, and then we've got half of this one. So there's actually, we need to take the area of this big shape, and then we're going to find the area, of these shapes here. That's one circle right there, and then another half circle in here. And we're going to subtract them off because they're like a bite out of that. So we'll get rid of that, and let's give this a try. So I'm going to call the rectangle area 1, and I'm going to call this circle area 2, and I'm going to call this area 3. So let's find the areas of each of those areas. So area 1 is this big rectangle, and it's length times width. Now the length of this rectangle, there's 2, and then a 5, and then a 2. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's 9 long. So that's the length by, and we've got a 4, 5, and 6. So 6 wide, 9 times 6. And 9 times 6 is 54. Now 54 is the whole thing. We've got to take the bites out of it. So we need the area of 2, which is an entire circle, just cut into 2 halves. So the area of 2 is pi r times r, which in this case is 3.14, times the radius, remember, is halfway. So all the way is 5, so half the way is going to be 2.5. 2.5 times 2.5. And let's just pull up my calculator here. Clear. That's going to be 3.14 times 2.5 times 2.5, which is 19. Oops. Can I pull that out of there? I used to be able to pull it out of there. 19.625. Okay. So 19.625, and that is in square inches. Now I'm going to need to subtract that off of the 54, but I also need to subtract off area 3. So let's take the area 3, which is a circle, but it's only half the circle. So we're going to do pi times r, and when we're done finding that, we're going to divide it by 2 because it's half of a circle. So 3.14 times the radius of this circle, remember radius is from the middle out, all the way across is 4, so half the way across is 2. So 2 times 2, and then we're going to divide by 2. Well, 3.14 times 2 divided by 2, well, this 2 divided by 2 is going to go away. When you times by 2 and then divide by 2, that on the end isn't going to do anything, so we can just times by 2, which is going to be 6.28. But you can type that into the calculator. You can type it all in if you want. If that didn't make sense to you, just type it all in. And so that's square inches. So now if we want the area of shaded, I'm going to put AS. We have to take the great big one and subtract off the 19.625 and also subtract off the 6.28. Let's pull up my calculator again. And we've already got that number in there. But let's actually 54 subtract 19.625 subtract 6.28. And our answer is 28, basically 28.1 if we round to 2 decimal places. So it's 28.1 square inches. Now we're going to find the distance around again. Remember, we need to find the circumference, or not the circumference, but the perimeter. And the perimeter goes all the way around like this. It's kind of choppy. But it should be pretty easy because I just have all these little pieces to add. So let's take a look at what we're going to add. I'm going to, here, let's get rid of that part. Whoops. Where'd my eraser go? Get rid of that part around it. Now we have to find this circle. So we're going to find this first. Remember that circumference, which is pi times diameter. So when we're finding the perimeter, we're going to do, let's call this P1, and that'll be for those two things, and we'll call this P2, and then we'll add up all of these other little pieces. So P1 is a whole circle again, which is pi times the diameter, which in this case is 3.14 times 5. So let's pull up my handy dandy calculator. Do 3.14 times 5, which is 15.7. 15.7. Now, P2 is only half a circle, so I have to do pi times diameter and then divide that by 2, which is 3.14. The diameter of this circle is 4 times 4, but then we have to divide it by 2. So let's plug that into our calculator, and we get 3.14 times 4 divided by 2, and that's going to give us 6.28. So 6.28. Now, if we want the total perimeter, so total perimeter, we have to take that 15.7, add the 6.28, but we got to do more than that. There's more things to add on here. There's this 1 and a 2 and another 2, and all the way across here, we saw that before, that was 6. All the way across there was 6. So we got 1, 2, 2, 6, 2, 2, 1. So we're going to add in 1, 2, so that's 3 there. And a 1, 2 is another 3 there, so there's 6 total at the top. And then there's another 6 total down here, which makes it 12. And then we've got a 2 and a 2, which is another 4, so that's 16. So once again, 1 plus 2 is 3, plus another 2 is 5. And then there's another 5 over on this side as well, 1 plus 2 plus 2. So we've got 5 over here and 5 over here, which makes 10, and another 6 is 16. So we're going to add that 16 onto the end, and let's plug that into my handy dandy calculator, and we'll be done. Where is my handy? There it is. So 15.7 plus 6.28 plus 16. And that's 37.98. Now remember that this is a perimeter, so a perimeter gets centimeters. Oh, did I use inches up here? These are all centimeters. Let's take the inches back off there. Hope I didn't mess you up too much there. These are not inches, these are all in centimeters. So this is centimeters squared. Centimeters squared. This final answer, centimeters squared. Centimeters squared. But the perimeter are all in just plain centimeters because they're not two-dimensional, only one dimension. And we're done.